Hola, soy yo, Vicky, otra vez. And in today's video, we're going to learn how to make the sexy subjunctive. We're going to, everybody worries about the subjunctive. It's very strange tense in Spanish because we don't really have it in English, so that makes it very complicated. But the way we're going to learn how to use the subjunctive is just in phrases, because there's not really a logic to it. You know, we like, as adults learning a language, we like to have logic. We like to know why we say things a certain way or how it relates to English. And that, as you know, if you've been following my method, that's what I try to do, to relate everything to English so you can understand it better. Can't really do that with the sexy subjunctive because we don't really have an equivalent. So we're just going to learn phrases where we would use the subjunctive. And once it becomes, it's hard to explain, it becomes almost automatic in the end. And you know, that's not just for us learning Spanish. If you asked a Spanish person, you know, when do you use the subjunctive, they just wouldn't be able to answer you. So unless they're, you know, teachers themselves, they really wouldn't. And even then, I think nobody really knows. It's just one of those things. It's one of those solo porque, just because things in Spanish that we have. So what we're going to do in this video, where if you have the book, we're in language 4, level 4, break the language barrier, level 4. Currently on offer in Amazon. Also, I have some copies here. If you're local, I have some copies here, so you can come and pick a copy up here, and they're only €5. Well, I say €5, they're $4.99, but just rather than messing about with change, if you come in here to buy them. And we are on page 8. We're looking at the formation of the subjunctive. So actually how we make it in this video. How we actually, you know, what verb endings we use, etc. Now, I always think that when I get to this level with students, it's good as well, because to be able to form the subjunctive, you have to know the present tense, because the subjunctive is based, or it's formed using present tenses. So it's a good practice, because sometimes by the time you get to level 4, the present tense is sort of, you know, such a long time ago that you did the present tense. You know, it's always good to go over it again, of course. So the formation. So if you've got the book, as I say, page 8, don't worry if you haven't got the book, you can still follow this tutorial. So nearly all verbs are formed in the same way in the subjunctive. We take the first person singular of the verb we want to use in the present simple tense. So for example, comer would be como, vivir would be vivo, hablar would be hablo, conocer would be conozco. Because if it's irregular in the present tense, it's going to be a little bit irregular in the subjunctive. So conozco, the first person of conocer, first person singular, is slightly irregular with the ZC. So when we're going into the subjunctive, we'll be taking that as the stem. Tengo, hago, quiero, salgo, veo. All these are first person singular in the present tense, and they all end in O, because every verb in the present tense, first person singular, ends in O. Yeah? So what do? We take off the O. So whatever that first person singular is, we take off the O and we add on these endings, which will sort of freak you out a little bit, because they're the opposite to what we would normally do. So if it's an AR verb like hablar, so we go to the present tense first person singular, which is hablo. We take off the O, which leaves us with the stem, hable, and we add on, in this order, for the first, second, third person singular, etc., es, emos, eis, en. So we're adding on endings with e's in them rather than a, so it's the opposite of what we do in the present tense. So hablar in the subjunctive would be hable, hables, hable, hablemos, habléis, hablen. And then er and ir verbs, we do the opposite. Well, we start off with the same premise where we take the present tense, first person singular, take off the o. So let's use a slightly irregular verb. So for example, tener, if we take teners, which in the first person singular in the present tense is tengo, because it's a go-go verb. So, and I need to say that although you don't need the book to follow this video, if you don't know about go-go verbs or past tenses, that you do really need to learn those first. This is a level that we come to by the time people have already done present, past tenses, future tenses, etc. So if you don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about first person singular and present tenses and stuff like that, you do need to go back and look at the videos from the beginning. Okay, so tener, tengo, so we take off the o, so our stem is teng. And for er verbs, we add on a, as, a, amos, ais, an. So we'd have tenga, tengas, tenga, tengamos, tengáis, tengan. So notice that the first person singular, I, and the third person singular, he, she, or it, is the same form, tenga. So there are times where you might need to actually use the subject pronoun, like the yo, or the el, or ella, which normally you don't need to use in Spanish because the ending on the verb tells you. And the same for ir verbs. So if we take, again, a slightly irregular ir verb in the present tense, salir, which again is a go-go verb, salgo, take off the o, and then we add on the a, as, a, amos, ais, an. So we've got salga, salgas, salga, salgamos, salgáis, salgan. And I will put this formation in the description box, you know, so you can read it as well as follow it on the video. That's it for the formation, basically. But there are a few irregular verbs. Well, you know it just wouldn't be right if there weren't some irregular verbs. So the irregular verbs, or I was nearly speaking in Spanish then, but of course that's okay, I presume. But también voy a poner los verbos irregulares en la descripción. So dar, the verb to give, is de, des, de, demos, deis, den. And estar, the verb to be, este, estes, este, estemos, estéis, estén. And there's accents on the first person singular. Well, in fact, I think there's accents on all the persons except the we, estemos. All the others have accents. Haber, the verb haber. Haya, hayas, haya, hayamos. Remember, these have got a H, I'm just not pronouncing it. Hayais, hayan. All right, so there's no accent on the third person plural. So, Ir-vaya, vayáis, vaya, vayamos, vayáis, vaya, vayas, vaya, vayamos, vayáis, vayan. And saber, to know, information. Sepa, 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 sepamos, sepáis, sepan. And ser, the verb to be, of course. The other verb to be, sea, 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 seamos, seáis, sean. Okay, so as I say, they're all going to be in the description box. Now, so that's how we make it. It's not that difficult to make. The question is, when do we use it? That's what's difficult. I think you will always find the subjunctive it's the second part of a sentence normally, because there'll be something in the beginning of the sentence that triggers the subjunctive. So, if things like if you're saying, I hope that he arrives on time. So, if I hope that isn't subjunctive in itself, but it triggers the subjunctive in the second part of the sentence. I hope that he arrives on time. Espero que llegue a tiempo. So, as I say, not the first part of the sentence that's in the subjunctive. That's the bit that sets up the subjunctive in the second clause of the sentence. Yeah, and there's just various times when we use the subjunctive. That's what we're going to look at in future videos. For this video, I just want it to be how you actually make it, so you can get your head around that before we actually start looking at examples. The first example we're going to do in the next video are expressions of desire, things that we hope or we want, etc. So that's what we'll be looking at in the next video. So don't forget, the book's on offer on Amazon, $4.99, or if you live locally, you can come and pick up your copy here. Also, of course, on offer are the storybooks, and there is now a YouTube video where I'm reading out one of the stories, and I will be doing another one shortly. I will eventually do all those, but don't forget there's 3 storybooks. The black and white ones are only $3.99. Again on Amazon, or you can come and pick them up here if you're local, and the colour one is $9.99, again on Amazon, or can be collected here. I don't mind delivering them if it's local, obviously, but that needs to be a minimum order of €10. Okay, so muchas gracias por mirar. Now we're really going to get to grips with the subjunctive. Don't be scared of it. It's not as bad as people worry that it is. Okay, so os veo en el próximo video. Gracias.